Part 1. The broken thing in the wreckage. The dead ship floated in the darkness like a ghost. Its metal skin was torn open. Fire had burned through its walls. Whatever had happened here, it had happened fast and without mercy. Commander Elias Vance guided his small salvage vessel closer to the wreckage. His sensors showed no life signs. No movement. Just cold metal and empty space. This was his job. He flew to dead ships, took what was valuable, and sold it at the nearest station. It was not a noble job, but it paid for fuel and food. Elias was 43 years old. His hair had gone gray at the temples. His hands were rough from years of hard work. And his body carried scars that told stories he never shared with anyone. He had been a soldier once, a long time ago. Earth's military had done things to him, put things inside him, changed his blood and his bones. They called it enhancement. He called it torture. When the war ended, they threw him away like broken equipment. So he came to the outer rim, where nobody asked questions and everybody had secrets. His ship, the Wandering Oath, was old but reliable. Its crew was small. Mira, his engineer, was sleeping in her cabin. Dax, his pilot, was running the navigation systems. They had done 100 salvage runs together. This one looked no different. Elias put on his suit and crossed from his ship into the wreckage. The artificial gravity was gone. He floated through dark corridors, his flashlight cutting through the shadows. The walls had writing on them. Therian script. The Therians were a species known for their research. They studied everything. Sometimes the things they studied fought back. He found bodies. Therian scientists in white coats, frozen solid, their faces locked in expressions of fear. He found equipment. Computers and machines he did not recognize. And he found cages. Dozens of cages, all of them empty, all of them broken open from the inside. Whatever had been in those cages was gone now. Escaped into the void, or maybe still hiding somewhere on the ship. Elias should have turned back. Any smart person would have turned back. But something pulled him forward. A sound, faint and weak, like breathing. He followed it to a storage room at the end of a long corridor. The door was bent and twisted. Something had tried very hard to get inside. Or maybe to get out. He pushed through the broken door and stopped. A dragon lay curled in the corner of the room. It was small. No bigger than a large dog. Its scales were dark purple, almost black, but they had lost their shine. Blood had dried on its wings. One of its legs bent at a wrong angle. And around its throat was a metal collar with blinking lights and Therian writing. Elias knew what this was. Everyone in the galaxy knew about Kethvari dragons. They were listed as Class 7 dangerous fauna, apex predators. They could generate plasma in their throats and breathe fire hot enough to melt through ship hulls. Warlords used them as weapons. Rich collectors kept them as prizes. And scientists like the Therians used them as experiments. The dragon opened one eye. It was golden, bright like a small sun, and it looked at Elias without fear. There was something else in that eye. Something tired. Something that had given up. The creature expected him to kill it. He could see that clearly. It had been hurt so many times that death would be a kindness. Elias should have walked away. Every rule of survival told him to seal this room and forget what he had seen. A wounded dragon was still a dragon. It could kill him with a single breath, but he did not walk away. He knelt down slowly, keeping his movements calm and gentle. The dragon watched him. It did not attack. It did not even growl. It just watched, waiting to see what this strange human would do. Elias looked at the collar. He had worn something similar once, back in the labs where they had remade him. A device that tracked him, controlled him, reminded him every second that he was property, not a person. He pulled out his cutting tool. It was meant for slicing through ship metal, but it would work on a collar too. The dragon hissed when Elias brought the tool close. The sound was weak, barely a whisper. "Easy," Elias said. His voice was soft. "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to help." He did not know if the creature understood him. Probably not, but it seemed to understand his tone. It went still, its golden eye fixed on his face. The cutting tool burned hot. Sparks flew. The dragon flinched but did not move. And then the collar fell away, hitting the floor with a dull sound. For a long moment, nothing happened. Elias stayed where he was, his hands still extended, waiting. He could see the marks the collar had left on the dragon's scales. Raw and red. Infected, maybe. This creature had been suffering for a long time. Then, slowly the dragon moved. It dragged itself forward, leaving a trail of blood on the floor. Every movement clearly caused pain, but it kept coming, inch by inch, until its head rested against Elias's palm. The scales were warm, warmer than he expected, and he could feel the creature's heartbeat, fast and frightened, beginning to slow as his hand stayed gentle and still. "Okay," Elias said quietly. "Okay, I've got you." He did not know why he had done this. It made no sense. This dragon could kill him. It probably would kill him once it healed and remembered that it was a predator. But right now, in this moment, it was just a broken thing that needed help. And Elias had been a broken thing once too. He gathered the dragon carefully in his arms. It was lighter than it looked, all hollow bones and damaged wings. It made a small sound as he lifted it. Not a growl, not a hiss. Something softer, something almost like a sigh. Elias carried it back through the dark corridors, past the frozen bodies and the empty cages, back to the wandering oath, back to warmth and light and the possibility of healing. Behind him, the dead ship continued its slow drift through the endless black. But Elias did not look back. He was too busy looking down at the creature in his arms, wondering what he had just gotten himself into, and wondering, maybe, if saving this dragon might somehow save a small piece of himself too. Part 2. Learning each other's languages. Mira stood in the doorway of the cargo bay with her arms crossed. Her dark hair was messy from sleep, and her eyes were sharp with anger. "You brought a dragon onto my ship," she said. "Technically, it's my ship," Elias replied. He was kneeling beside a makeshift bed of blankets where the dragon lay sleeping. Its breathing was slow and steady now. He had cleaned its wounds and set its broken leg as best he could. "That thing is going to eat us," Myra said. "It's going to wait until we're sleeping, and then it's going to burn us alive and eat our bodies. She hasn't eaten anyone yet. Yet. That's the word that worries me." Dex appeared behind Myra, his blue skin pale with shock. He was Venthari, a species known for being calm and logical. Right now, he looked neither calm nor logical. "Commander," he said carefully, "I have deep respect for you, but this is insane." Elias looked at them both. They had followed him for 5 years. They had trusted him through storms and battles and long stretches of empty space. He owed them an explanation. "Look at her," he said, pointing at the dragon. "Look at the marks on her throat, the scars on her wings. The Therians did experiments on her. They hurt her. They broke her. And then they left her to die on that ship." Myra's expression softened just a little. "That's terrible. It really is. But she's still a dragon. You can't change what she is." "No," Elias agreed. "But I can change how she's treated." He named her Ember because of the way her scales glowed faintly when she slept, like coals in a dying fire. The name fit her. She was something that had almost burned out, but still held a spark inside. The first week was hard. Ember was too weak to move much. She ate small pieces of meat that Elias cut for her and drank water from a bowl. She flinched whenever anyone came too close. The only person she allowed to touch her was Elias, and even then, she watched his every movement with careful eyes. But she learned fast that by the second week, she knew her name. When Elias said, "Ember," her head would turn toward him. When he said, "Stay," she would stop moving. When he said, "Come," she would drag herself to his side. Even though her leg still hurt Dot by the third week, she was walking. Her leg had healed wrong, leaving her with a slight limp, but she did not let it slow her down. She followed Elias everywhere, through the corridors, into the cockpit, down to the engine room where Myra worked on at first. Myra ignored her. Then she started talking to her, just little things, complaints about broken parts and stubborn machines. Ember would sit and listen, her head tilted, her golden eyes bright with interest. "She's smart," Myra admitted one day. "Smarter than most creatures I've met. Smarter than some people I've met." Dex was harder to win over. His species had been hunted by predators for thousands of years. Fear was built into his bones. But Ember seemed to understand this. She never approached him directly. She never moved fast around him. She just existed in the same space, quiet and calm, until one day Dex reached out and touched her head. "Her scales are warm," he said, surprised. "I thought they would be cold." "She generates her own heat," Elias explained. "Dragons are warm-blooded. They need that heat to create plasma in their throats." "Fascinating," Dex said. And from that moment on, he was no longer afraid. The other species they encountered were not so accepting. At a trading station in the Corvin system, a group of merchants stared at Ember like she was a bomb waiting to explode. A Volani trader pulled Elias aside and spoke in a low voice. "You travel with a Kethvari? Are you mad? Those creatures are monsters. They kill without thought, without mercy." Elias looked back at Ember. She was sitting beside Dex, letting a young Venturi child pet her wings. The child was laughing. Ember's tail was wagging slowly, like a happy dog. "She's not a monster," Elias said. "She's just been treated like one." The Volani shook his head. "Humans, you have no understanding of danger. You take in wild things and expect them to become gentle. One day, this will destroy you." "Maybe," Elias agreed. "But I'd rather die trying to see the good in something than live forever being afraid." He bought supplies and left the station. The Volani's words stayed with him for a while, but he did not let them change his mind. Weeks turned into months. Ember grew stronger. Her scales regained their shine. Her wings healed fully, and she could fly short distances inside the cargo bay, circling around crates and landing on high shelves. She made sounds now, not just hisses and growls, but chirps and rumbles and purrs. Each sound meant something different. Ilias learned to understand them, just as she had learned to understand his words. One night, he woke from a nightmare. The same nightmare he had been having for 20 years. The labs, the needles, the pain of being remade into something else. He sat up in his bunk, breathing hard, his heart pounding. Ember was already awake. She was lying at the foot of his bed, her eyes glowing softly in the darkness. She had not moved or made a sound, but she was watching him. And as he sat there, trying to slow his breathing, she crawled forward and rested her head on his chest. Her weight was warm and solid. Her heartbeat was steady and calm. And as Elias put his hand on her head, he felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Peace. "You understand, don't you?" he whispered. "You know what it's like to be broken and remade, to be turned into something you didn't choose to be." Ember made a soft sound, a low rumble that vibrated through his chest. Yes, that sound seemed to say, "I understand." They stayed like that for a long time, the man and the dragon, finding comfort in each other's presence. Outside the ship, the stars wheeled slowly past the viewport. Inside, there was only warmth and silence and the feeling of being, for once, not alone. Elias closed his eyes. For the first time in 20 years, the nightmares did not come back. Part 3. What Humans Do. The attack came on a quiet morning. Elias was eating breakfast in the small kitchen of the Wandering Oath. Myra was checking the engine readings on her tablet. Dex was running navigation scans of the cockpit. Ember was sleeping on a pile of blankets in the corner, her tail curled around her body, her breath slow and peaceful. Then the alarm started screaming. Dex's voice came over the ship's speakers, sharp with fear. "Commander, we have a ship incoming. Karth markings. They're moving fast." Elias dropped his food and ran to the cockpit. Through the viewport, he could see it. A Karth warship, 3 times the size of the Wandering Oath. Its weapons already glowing with charged energy. The Karth were slavers, pirates. They took whatever they wanted and killed anyone who got in their way. They were feared across the outer rim, and for good reason. "Why are they after us?" Mira demanded, appearing beside Elias. "We don't have anything valuable." But Elias knew the answer. He had known it might happen eventually. The Therian research vessel had been sending out a signal when it died. A tracking signal. Whoever owned those experiments would come looking for them. They were not here for cargo. They were here for Ember. "Dex, can we outrun them?" Elias asked. "No chance. Their engines are twice as powerful as ours. Can we fight them?" "Our weapons would barely scratch their hull." Elias closed his eyes for a moment. He had faced death before. Many times. But he had always faced it alone. Now he had a crew. People who trusted him. People who would die because of a choice he had made. "Get to the escape pods," he said quietly. Mira grabbed his arm. "What?" "Take Dex. Take whatever supplies you can carry. Get to the pods and launch toward the nearest station." "What about you?" "Someone has to stay and give you time to escape." Elias pulled free of her grip. "The pods are too slow. If I don't keep them busy, they'll catch you before you get clear." Myra's eyes filled with tears. She was a tough woman. She had seen terrible things and survived them all. But this was different. This was goodbye. "You stupid, stubborn man," she whispered. "I know," Elias said. He tried to smile. "Now go, please." Dex came forward and put his hand on Elias's shoulder. His blue skin was pale, but his voice was steady. "It has been an honor, Commander. The honor was mine." They left. Elias heard their footsteps fade down the corridor. He heard the escape pods powering up. And then he heard a sound behind him. Ember was standing in the doorway. She had followed him from the kitchen. Her wings were spread slightly, her scales glowing with internal heat. Her golden eyes were fixed on his face. "No," Elias said. "Not you. You go with them." Ember did not move. "Ember, go. Get on the pod with Myra and Dex. You'll be safe with them." Still, she did not move. Elias crossed the room and tried to push her toward the door. She was heavier now, her muscles rebuilt, her body strong. She planted her feet and refused to budge. "Listen to me," he said, his voice breaking. "They want you. That's why they're here. If you stay, they'll take you back to some lab and do terrible things to you again. If you go, you might have a chance." Ember looked at him. Her eyes were calm, certain, and in them, Elias saw something that made his heart stop. She knew exactly what was happening. She understood everything. And she was choosing to stay anyway, not because she was stupid, not because she did not understand the danger, but because she had made a choice. The same choice Elias had made when he knelt beside her in that dead ship and cut off her collar. She was choosing him. "You stupid lizard," Elias whispered. Tears were running down his face now. He did not try to stop them. "This isn't your fight." Ember stepped forward and pressed her head against his chest. The same gesture she always made when he was sad or afraid. The gesture that said, "I am here." "You are not alone, Dot," and Elias understood something in that moment. Something important. This was what he had taught her. Not how to be a weapon. Not how to be afraid. But how to love something enough to die for it. She had learned it from watching him. A crash echoed through the ship. The Korath had attached to the airlock. They were cutting through. Elias wiped his eyes and picked up a weapon from the storage locker. It was an old plasma rifle, outdated and underpowered. It would not stop a Korath soldier, but it was better than nothing. Ember moved to stand beside him. Her scales were glowing brighter now, and heat radiated from her body like a furnace. Her throat made a low rumbling sound. A warning. "Okay," Elias said. "If we're doing this, we're doing it together." Ember's tail brushed against his leg. Together, the airlock exploded inward. Korath soldiers poured through, their weapons raised, their faces hidden behind black helmets. They moved fast, expecting easy prey. An old salvage ship with no real defenses. A valuable experiment to recapture. A simple job. They did not expect what they found. A human and a dragon stood in the middle of the corridor. The human's rifle was raised and steady. The dragon's mouth was open, and blue-white light was building in her throat. Neither one was running. The lead Korath soldier hesitated for just a moment. That moment was enough. Elias fired first. The shot took the soldier in the shoulder, spinning him around. And then Ember opened her mouth, and everything became fire. The battle for the Wandering Oath had begun. Part 4. Fire and Fury. The galaxy had forgotten something important about dragons. For centuries, species like the Therians had tried to control them. They used genetic engineering to remove their aggression. They used collars and chemicals to make them obedient. They turned apex predators into laboratory subjects and told themselves they had won, but there was something they could never touch. Something buried so deep in Kethvari blood that no scientist could find it or remove it. Dragons chose their riders. And once that bond was formed, nothing in the universe could break it. Ember had chosen Elias, and now, standing beside him in the burning corridor of the Wandering Oath, she showed the Korath what that choice really meant. Plasma erupted from her throat in concentrated streams. The heat was intense, turning the air itself into fire. Korath soldiers screamed as their armor melted. Their weapons exploded in their hands. They had come expecting an easy capture. They found a nightmare instead. Ember moved with incredible speed. She was everywhere at once, leaping over soldiers, dodging their shots, circling back to Elias again and again. She never let him out of her sight. Every time a Korath got too close to him, she was there, teeth and claws and burning breath. Elias fought beside her. His rifle was hot in his hands, nearly overheating from constant fire. He had been a soldier once. His body remembered the training, even when his mind wanted to forget. Move, shoot, take cover. Keep moving. But there were too many of them. For every Korath that fell, 2 more pushed through the airlock. They were soldiers, trained and disciplined. Their initial fear was fading. They were adapting, learning to avoid Ember's fire, spreading out to surround them. A shot caught Elias in the shoulder. The impact spun him around. Pain exploded through his body. He dropped his rifle and fell to his knees, clutching the wound. Blood poured through his fingers, hot and wet. Ember screamed. It was a sound unlike anything he had heard before. Not a roar, not a hiss. A scream of pure rage and terror, echoing through the ship like a thunderclap. She abandoned her attack and flew to his side. Her body curled around him, wings spread wide, creating a shield of scales and heat. She was making herself a target Elias realized, drawing their fire away from him. "No," he gasped. "Ember, don't." But she was not listening. Her eyes were fixed on the Korath soldiers surrounding them. Her throat was glowing again, brighter than before, building towards something massive. The Korath commander stepped forward. He was taller than the others, his armor marked with symbols of rank. His voice came through his helmet, calm and cold. "Enough. You cannot win this. Surrender the creature, and we will let you live." Elias laughed. It hurt, but he laughed anyway. "You really don't understand, do you?" "Understand what?" "She's not my prisoner. She's not my weapon." Elias pressed his hand against Ember's side, feeling her warmth, her heartbeat, her fury. "She's my friend, and I would rather die than let you take her." The commander was silent for a moment. Then he raised his weapon. "Very well." Ember moved. She was not attacking. She was not running. She simply placed herself directly between Elias and the commander. Her wings spread wide, her body completely still, and she looked at the commander with those golden eyes, not with rage, not with fear, with something else entirely. Warning, mercy, a chance to walk away. Elias understood what she was doing. She was giving them a choice. The same choice she had been given when he found her on that dead ship. She was showing them that violence was not the only answer, that there was always another way, because that is what her human had taught her. The corridor was silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the fires seemed to burn more quietly. Then, slowly, the Korath commander lowered his weapon. "Fall back," he said. One of his soldiers stepped forward. "Commander, we have our orders." I said, "Fall back." The soldiers hesitated. Then, one by one, they began to retreat toward the airlock. They dragged their wounded with them. They did not look back. The commander was the last to leave. He stood in the ruined doorway, his helmet turned toward Ember. "I have never seen a Kethvari show mercy," he said. "I did not think it was possible." She learned it from him. Myra's voice came from behind them. She had come back. Dex was with her, carrying a medical kit. She learned everything from him. The commander looked at Elias, bleeding on the floor, his hands still resting on his dragon. "Then perhaps," he said slowly, "humans are more dangerous than we thought. Not because of your weapons or your ships, but because of what you teach the things you love." He turned and walked away. The airlock sealed behind him. A moment later, the Korath ship detached and began to pull away. Myra dropped to her knees beside Elias. "You idiot. You absolute idiot. Why didn't you get on the pod with us?" "Couldn't," Elias whispered. His vision was getting dark around the edges. "She wouldn't leave. So I couldn't either." Ember was pressing against him, keening softly. Her whole body was shaking. The fire had left her, and now she was just a frightened creature watching her human bleed. "It's okay," Elias told her. He could barely keep his eyes open. "It's okay. We won. You did it." Dex was working on his shoulder, applying pressure, preparing bandages. "The wound is not fatal, but he has lost much blood." Myra was crying. "Just keep him alive. Whatever it takes." Ember laid her head on Elia's chest. Her weight was warm and familiar. Her heartbeat was steady against his own. "Good girl," Elias whispered. "Good girl." And then the darkness took him. Part 5. The warmth that stayed. Elias woke up 3 days later in a hospital bed on Nexus Station. The room was small but clean. Medical machines beeped softly beside him. His shoulder was wrapped in white bandages, and his whole body felt weak and heavy. But he was alive. Ember was lying on the floor beside his bed. She lifted her head the moment his eyes opened, and her tail began to wag. "Hey there," Elias said. His voice was rough and dry. "Did you stay here the whole time?" Ember made a soft chirping sound. Yes, that sound meant. I stayed. I waited for you. Myra appeared in the doorway. She looked tired but relieved. You're awake. Finally. The doctor said you'd pull through, but you had us worried. How long was I out? 3 days. Dex kept the ship running. The station gave us a place to dock while you recovered. She walked over and sat on the edge of his bed. The Korath are gone. They left the system right after the fight. We haven't seen them since. Elias nodded slowly. He remembered the battle, the fire, the blood, and he remembered the Korath commander lowering his weapon and walking away. Ember saved us, he said. She did more than that. Myra's eyes were soft. She could have killed them all. She had the power. But she didn't. She gave them a chance to leave. I know. Where did she learn that? To show mercy like that? Ilias looked at Ember. She was watching him with those golden eyes, her tail still moving slowly back and forth. From me, he said. She learned it from me. Everything I taught her. Everything I showed her. She remembered all of it. Myra was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and touched Ember's head gently. The dragon allowed it, leaning into her hand. I was wrong about her, Myra admitted. When you first brought her on board, I thought she was a monster. I thought she would hurt us. But she's not a monster. She's family. Yeah, Elias agreed. She is. The story of what happened on the Wandering Oath spread quickly through the Outer Rim. Spacers talked in stations and bars. Merchants shared the tale along their trade routes. Within months, everyone from the core worlds to the frontier had heard some version of the story. The human and his dragon. The battle against the Korath. The moment a creature everyone feared showed mercy instead of rage. Some people did not believe it. Dragons could not show mercy, they said. Dragons were monsters, pure and simple. The story must be exaggerated. It must be a lie. But others believed. And they started to ask questions. What if we were wrong about Kethvari? What if they could be more than weapons and experiments? What if they just needed someone to treat them with kindness? Elias did not care about the stories. He did not care about fame or reputation. He just wanted to do his job, pay for fuel and food, and spend his evenings with his crew and his dragon. But sometimes the stories found him anyway. One day, on a station in the Helix Nebula, a young Volani girl approached him. She was small, maybe 8 years old by human standards, with bright purple eyes and a stuffed toy clutched in her arms. The toy looked like a dragon. "Excuse me," she said. Her voice was shy but curious. "Are you the human with the dragon?" Elias looked down at her. Ember was standing beside him, her tail swishing gently. Behind them, Mira and Dex were buying supplies. "Yes," he said. "That's me. Is it true?" The girl asked. "Did you really tame a monster?" Elias thought about the question for a long time. He looked at Ember. She was watching the girl with gentle eyes. Her tail was wagging. "No," he said finally. "I didn't tame her. I just saw something that everyone else had given up on, and I decided to try anyway." The girl tilted her head. Why? Because she deserved a chance. Just like everyone deserves a chance. Elias knelt down so he was at the girl's eye level. She wasn't a monster. She was just broken and scared. And sometimes, the things that seem the most dangerous are really the things that need the most love. The girl looked at Ember, slowly, carefully. She reached out her hand. Ember lowered her head and let the girl touch her scales. "She's warm," the girl said, surprised. "I thought she would be cold." "Dragons are always warm," Elias said. "It's one of their best qualities." The girl smiled. It was a bright, innocent smile, full of wonder and hope. "Is that what humans do? Help things that are broken?" Elias thought about his own life. the labs where they had remade him, the years of loneliness and pain. And then this strange, beautiful creature who had taught him how to feel again. "When we're at our best," he said. "Yes, that's exactly what we do." Later that night, Elias sat in the cargo bay of the Wandering Oath. The ship was quiet. The stars outside the viewport wheeled slowly past, cold and beautiful and endless. Ember lay beside him, her head resting in his lap. Her scales glowed softly, giving off warmth that spread through his whole body. He stroked her head gently, and she made that purring sound he loved so much. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for staying, for choosing me, for everything." Ember opened one golden eye and looked at him. She made a soft chirping sound. "You are welcome." That sound meant, "You are mine. I am yours." Always. Elias smiled. For the first time in 20 years, he felt truly at peace. Outside, the galaxy continued to spin. Wars were fought. Empires rose and fell. Species struggled and survived, and sometimes disappeared. It was a harsh universe, cold and unforgiving. But here, in this small ship drifting through the stars, there was warmth. There was love. There was a man and a dragon who had found each other in the wreckage of broken lives and built something beautiful together. And that warmth would stay with them forever. The end.